Well, guys, you guys know that sensitive conversation when it comes to religion. I truly try to avoid it at all costs, but I do listen to a lot of Muslim versus Christian lives, and they're debating and they're saying certain things, and sometimes they kind of stick to certain things that are just simply not true. And I like to point those out. Now, me personally, up front, I am Muslim, so I'm not taking a side. I'm just exposing one of the things that I tend to see, and I think I'm going to make videos about exposing some of those things in these arguments that they tend to have. And this is just one of them that kind of gets to me all the time because they try to use it as something like as if almost as a crutch or it's a clutch move or something that they're coming out of nowhere with, but it's really not. So the one that I'm talking about is actually Galatians chapter 1 verses 6 through 13, I believe. So basically, obviously Muhammad, his first revelations were in the mountain inside the cave, and Angel Gabriel approaches him and tells him Iqra, which is to read, and then Iqra was revealed to him. So in Galatians, written by Paul, by the way, and we'll talk about Paul, but in Galatians verses 6 through 13, it tells you that, hey, if anyone gives you another gospel, even if it's from an angel, this is a false gospel, and may God curse them, And the reason why this is such a weird one is, first of all, Paul is not a prophet. A lot of people do think Paul is a prophet, but he never received revelation. That's number one. Matter of fact, in Galatians 1, verse 11, he says that he didn't receive revelation from any man, but he received it from Jesus, which is a whole dichotomy in itself because Paul never met Jesus. Paul actually never knew Jesus. Matter of fact, the proof of that is in the book of Acts, where Paul is on his way to Damascus, the Damascus Road encounter, where Paul is hallucinating and he says he sees this bright light coming from the heavens, and there's a voice talking to him and saying, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? And in this verse is where he finds out, or he says that it's actually Jesus talking to him. It's okay, let's grant that. It's perfectly fine, you know? But Paul was actually on his way to Damascus to actually persecute Christians when this happened. And evidently, this was the change in his life to actually turn to Christianity. This was the move, or this was the event that took place to make him believe in Jesus. Now, going back to Galatians, the issue with this is that people use verse 6 through 8 saying that if anyone receives the gospel from an angel is false, as saying it's the prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. This has nothing to do with Prophet Muhammad. And the reason for that is actually very simple. When Paul was writing the letter to the Galatians, the history is very simple. Paul went to Galatia, which is actually a list of three cities: Antioch, Lystra, and Iconium. When he went there, he actually preached to them the Torah. And at this time, he didn't really have too many of his letters. So the Torah is what he has. And even the Bible references this as the gospel. But Paul was actually beheaded between 67 and 68 AD. The first synoptic gospels were not completed until 70 to 90 AD. So Paul never had the synoptic gospels. He only had his letters and the Torah. So in this time, Paul completely, you know, teaches the people of Galatia, hey, this is how you're supposed to teach this. Follow my way. This is the correct way. Well, Paul goes back for a second visit to Galatia and he realizes, man, these guys in the church are teaching this very differently and I got to get them back in line. So he writes this letter to them. And he's telling the people of Galatia, hey, if anyone tells you other than what I have told you, may God curse them. This has nothing to do with the Prophet Muhammad. Paul is simply writing a letter to the people of Galatia, which was later canonized in the Bible, and then Christians try to use it as a way of saying, hey, Muhammad is a false prophet because he received revelations in a cave from an angel. There's no tie between the two things. And I already can see the comments on what this will sound like and what people will be saying and all this other stuff. I can already see it. But if you actually read Galatians, you will realize very quickly it's just a letter to the people of Galatia. It has nothing to do with what's to come in the future or a future prophet or anything like that. That's just pure interpretation. Read the book of Galatians all through the chapters and tell me where you see him talking about a future prophet coming in Muhammad. He doesn't, because he never received any revelations or anything like that. He didn't even know Jesus, but he's also called an apostle. And that's the other point that I wanted to kind of touch on, because Paul is considered an apostle in Christianity. I never fully understood this because, to my definition, or from what I understand, the definition of an apostle is two simple things. One, you had to know Jesus, and two, Jesus had to pick you to go spread his message. Okay? Paul never knew Jesus. So, in turn, Jesus never picked him. He can't meet the 2 points of what it took to be an apostle. Those simple 2 points he never met. The two requirements he cannot meet. But for some reason, people call him an apostle. So that part is also very misunderstood for me. I don't fully understand it. I don't fully get it. But I can't wait to see what the comments say about this. But guys, Galatians has nothing to do with the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Thank you guys for watching, man. Appreciate your time. Peace out, y'all.